It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That's not a weakness. That is life. So have you ever done everything right and you still failed? You worked your butt off getting ready for that presentation. Your partners, not so much. Or have you ever gone above and beyond, going the extra mile, working those extra shifts and not even getting paid for it? And then come Christmas time, instead of getting a bonus, no, you get laid off. In today's video, gents, what to do when you gave everything and you still end up coming up short. Now, I first noticed that my son was pretty fast when he was playing YMCA soccer and he was leaving all the other kids in the dust. Now, this didn't surprise me as my father had been a track star back in Camarillo, California, and I was a pretty good middle distance runner myself, running in both high school and college. But my son, he seemed to have something special. As you can see right here, he's able to show off his speed. Middle school football, he runs to one side of the field, got all these kids chasing him, and then boom, all of a sudden he skirts over, jumping to the other side of the field, still with the entire other team in pursuit, and he goes and he runs for a touchdown. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm a proud dad. Now in middle school, he was a sprinter and ended up placing usually first or second at every meet he went to. And I think it was at about this time, in his mind, it got planted that he could be a track star. Now his freshman year didn't go as planned. In fact, for the entire world, it didn't go as planned because that was the year of COVID, so his freshman year track season was canceled. Now at the start of his sophomore year, he was on the JV football team, but unfortunately had an injury. It was a back injury that unfortunately took 8 months to heal, forcing him to miss his sophomore track season. Fast forward to his junior year, he's now on the varsity football team. During one of their final games, he unfortunately suffers an ankle injury. That being said, he's able to recover in 4 months and is able to run his first season of high school track. Now, picking up where he left off in junior high, Alex focuses in on the 100 and 200 meter races. He's good. He's the fastest kid from his school, but unfortunately, other schools have kids that are just a bit faster. Overall, his junior year is marked with ups and downs, but there is a bright spot, the 4x4. Well, Alex ends up being the first leg on the 4x4, and consistently he gives his team a huge commanding lead and is usually running about a 55 to 54 second 400, having not really trained for that race. In fact, the 4x4 ends up becoming his best race, the one race that he's able to ride to regionals. The other 200, he can't make it out of the district. Now, gents, before I finish the story here, really quick, I want to bring you today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Now, gents, BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you deal with your issues. And to get started, gents, it's simple. All you have to do is answer a few questions about your preferences in therapy, and then BetterHelp uses that information to help find the right therapist in their network for you. And then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable. Text, chat, phone, video call. Gents, you can message your therapist at any time, and you can schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. And if that therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to another therapist in their network at no additional cost. Gents, with BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you. On top of that, more scheduling flexibility and at an affordable price. I know all this because I myself have used BetterHelp. I went through the process. I actually worked with one of their therapists, and it is a solid system. I actually love what these guys have put together. So to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, guys, use the link in the description of today's video, or just go over to BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/realmenrealstyle. Go to that link, be able to save and talk to somebody and get the help you need. Now, as a middle distance runner, I immediately spot an opportunity for my son and talk to him about this because you can only do so much in the shorter sprints if you don't have the natural ability. But as you get into longer races, natural ability, it has less to do with it versus actually putting in the work, putting in the effort to actually have the endurance and the strength to be able to compete at the 400, 800, or even mile races.
Let's go, Sasha, turn it on!
Wrapping up his junior year, that 4x4 team does not make it to state. But we see a bright spot here. If Alex puts in the work, he puts in the effort, he has a chance to be able to crush it in the 400-meter race. And to make this happen, I'm proud to say that my son committed to the next 250 days to being focused on being the best 400-meter his school had ever seen. During the summer, he was up at the track running sprints, trying to improve his overall speed. During our Wisconsin winter, because you can't run outside and we don't have an indoor track, he was actually running the school halls, pulling a sled, which the custodians laughed at because it was like shining the floors. But he would do this at 6 o'clock in the morning, trying to build endurance. He even started taking taking these ice baths so that he could work on his mental strength. And last but not least, probably the biggest commitment was he decided to skip his senior year of football. He liked football, but he didn't love it. He loved track, and he realized if I play football, I'm likely to injure myself, and I really want to be dedicated to this one chance he had to set the school record in the 400 meters. So for the first meet of my son's senior year, we actually traveled 8 hours to Indiana, and he ran as an independent at an indoor college meet over at Wabash College. Now, most of the runners here were high school students, and the idea was for him to get a general feel of what condition he was in. And we had a good time. Now, his time wasn't the best, but we saw some of the flaws. We saw he needed to work more on his endurance. He died that last 150 meters on the 400. We're like, okay, we know where we need to put in the work. Let's go back and do that. So for the next 2 months, he worked on his endurance. And at the start of the indoor track season in Wisconsin, he was having some pretty good times. In fact, overall, his indoor season was pretty darn successful. He was just 0.03 seconds off of the school indoor record whenever he had his last meet. Yeah, talk about frustrating. He was actually in a slower heat and he won it by quite a bit. He wasn't challenged the next race. The guys were faster and he ended up getting second at that meet. But if he had had somebody pushing him, he could have broken that indoor school record. But he was motivated. He was excited. He went to his first outdoor meet and posted a solid 53 seconds in that first outdoor race. Now, if you've ever ran track and field, you know that the 400 meter is one of the hardest races out there. And 53 is pretty darn good. The school record was a high 50. And I knew if he could get a low 50, he would have a chance of winning state in Wisconsin, at least for his division. But unfortunately, this is where the fairy tale ends. You see, the next meet, my son got sick, and it was also really bad weather. So he pushed himself through trying to, do really well, but he ended up running only a 55, just wasn't feeling that great. I think for 2 weeks, he was really low on energy and could barely break a 55. And here in Wisconsin, we've got a really short outdoor season, so we only had a few races left, and I don't know what it was, but he was never able to get out of the 54 range. We thought it was mental. He tried changing that up. He went out faster. He went out slower, but it seemed like 54 is where in every single race he would end up running. Now, 54 is not a bad time, but it's all relative because there was a freshman that came out of nowhere and is running a 51. His other competition that had been running 54s and 55s with him, they were all now slipping down into 53s and 52s at this time of the year. And so all of a sudden, instead of thinking about state, he's wondering, can I even get out of my district? In the end, Alex ended up placing third in the district, went on to regionals, and was not able to advance because he wasn't in the top 10 and only the top 4 go to state. He did not set a school record and he did not achieve his goal of making it to state. And I'll tell you, as a dad that was at every meet, supporting him, working with him, training with him over the last 6 years going for this, it's frustrating. It's disheartening. When you know that your son has put in the effort, has given everything he can to achieve a goal and fails, it's frustrating. And this is where I know so many of you guys can relate because you have put in the time, you have put in the work, you have put in the effort at your job and you've lost it, or you didn't get that promotion, or you didn't get that recognition, you didn't get that pay despite everything that you put into it. For you business owners, you know what it's like. You go out there and you put all this time, money, and effort into a project, a year of your life, and it ends up falling flat on its face. Not only that, it's embarrassing and you lose money. And perhaps even more painful, let's talk about relationships. So many of you guys have put all your time, love, and effort into a relationship, and that other person didn't seem to reciprocate. In fact, that other person cheated on you. That other person, they basically betrayed your trust, and you're left with heartbreak and an empty bank account. And just what happened here? I mean, because let's face it, you did everything right. You did everything in your power to make this happen, and you still fell flat on your face. Or did you actually fall on your face? Because let's talk about what we can take from this. You guys know my channel. I always try to keep it positive. And even in these dark moments when you are looking at this, like there is a silver lining. Let's talk about the sacred effort. Have you ever heard of this? So the sacred effort is when you have given everything you can. And the reality is, a lot of times we say that we've given the sacred effort, but we didn't. Now, I want to share something with you. This was my son's commencement speech.
If you look behind you at the track and field records, you'll see that the 400-meter record was set by Joel Winston, ran a time of 50.8 in 1993. It was my goal to break that record. It had been my goal since freshman year. To have my name up there, 49.1, Alexander Centeno, 2023. But my thought process was skewed. I believed that I had plenty of time to play games, to scroll through social media, to relax. However, my mental process should have sounded like is this: I only have 4 years to achieve this. What can I do to get better? I will never achieve that goal, and that is one of my biggest regrets at this school. I had the opportunity to accomplish it, but failed. So I have two options. I can dwell on this failure and reflect on my lack of commitment. Or instead, I can use this as an opportunity to learn from my mistakes and not repeat them in the future.
I'm not going to play the whole speech for you, but I will say that he gave a really good presentation. I was very proud. He actually graduated summa cum laude. You know, I just see him up there speaking, presenting, and I'm proud of the man that he is. And I know that he gave it everything he could. He actually said in the speech that he probably could have played a little bit less video games, put in even more effort, but I think he's being hard on himself. But I know, looking at this, I mean, my son gave everything he could towards being the state champion. Didn't work out for him, but it's in that sacred effort when you lay everything out there that you can look back on your time and be proud. Yeah, you didn't get first. Maybe you didn't even place. Maybe you didn't even get any recognition, but you know you put in everything you got and you can be proud of you pushing yourself to that utmost limit. And let's talk about perspective. I know a lot of you older guys are watching this saying, come on, it's a relatively small setback in a bigger life, and he's going to be able to look back at this and understand that this is actually something that built him up. And I 100% agree. Perspective. I think early on in life, we sometimes put way too much weight on these failures that when you look at the bigger scheme of things, you know, just his perspective. I mean, he's going on to the University of Wisconsin. He got into their engineering honors program. He has so much in front of it. When I see him up on that stage, being able to present, being able to talk clearly, being at the top of his class, knowing he's going to go on to great things. The perspective here is, yeah, that small setback is nothing in the bigger scheme of the continued steps he's going to take forward. And that also forces us to bring up gratitude. I am so grateful that he's healthy, that we talked earlier about the back injuries. This was something he dealt with a lot over the last year. Any of you guys familiar with the reverse hyper machine? This was a machine that he actually identified. He did a lot of research. We went to a chiropractor. We did all types of stretches, yoga, but it was this reverse hyper that actually helped him deal with his lower back issues, which kind of hereditary wise, we've had it throughout my family. And I've actually found the reverse hyper helps me out a lot, but he daily gets down there and he does these exercises in our gym, and this reverse hyper has helped him manage his back pain. And so all of a sudden it was really a non-issue during his track season. And so not only am I grateful that he was able to manage and deal with his back issues, but I look at like he's setting up habits so he's not going to have back issues. Hopefully for the rest of his life he'll be able to exercise and be able to take care of the stretching and the back issues that have plagued me and my dad because I think of bad habits. He's going to be able to break free from that. In addition, I'm incredibly grateful that he even got to compete at this level. I know a lot of you guys missed out your entire senior year. You were going to be that state champion. You didn't even get a chance to compete because of COVID or because of something that happened, maybe an illness, an injury that ended up knocking you out. At least he got to compete half of his high school career. A lot of you guys, ended up missing out, or there are other people that have dealt with much worse situations than we have. And there's also the reality that failure is the best teacher. Because let's face it, whenever we win, whenever we succeed, do we actually learn anything? No, we're out there celebrating the victory, thinking that, yeah, this is what we deserved, versus when you fail. What happens? All of a sudden, you are humble. And this is something we talked about. I mean, there's only going to be one 400-meter state champion who was probably crowned today. Today is Saturday, the day that they're actually having the state meet. So yeah, there was a 400-meter champion crowned today, but everyone else got second, third, fourth, fifth. When you have a system set up like that, you are only going to have one winner, but that's not life. We know that there are so many different ways to win in life, to be able to enjoy it, to be able to live a good life. And I think, we needed to go back and be humble and to reset, the idea of what it even means to be a champion. And let's talk about resilience. That's only built whenever you fail and you have the opportunity to pick yourself back up. This book right here, my son actually gave me as a gift. I'm not sure if he actually had a meeting. I've read the other books by David Goggins, and I actually gave him the original book by David Goggins. Point being, if you know anything about this guy, anything about the idea of grit, Angela Duckworth, it is you build up resilience by actually going through that failure and learning to pick yourself up. It's not something you can read. It is something that you actually have to go through and experience. And I look at the way that he was just able to pick himself up. In fact, in his commencement speech, I was so proud. He actually brought up the fact that he had failed and what he was going to learn and take from that failure to improve and get better. And that, gentlemen, is resilience. All right, Jen, so what video to watch next? How about if you're dealing with loneliness? There's a huge epidemic out there for men, especially because we're really bad about actually making new friends, how to meet people. I talk about it in this, how I've dealt with loneliness and how I've been working to overcome. Check out this video right here, guys. I know you're going to enjoy it. Boom, right here.